I'm sure that just like me, you are looking forward to the day when live events and real hugs will finally resume. But for right now, a lot of events are going virtual, including our very own Powerhouse Women event. We are doing something we've never done before, and we are bringing our annual event to you in a virtual experience unlike any other. You can get all the details, check it out, and grab your ticket at powerhousewomenevent.com. And we're going to talk all about virtual events in today's episode. I know so many others who have had to quickly pivot or reimagine their live events into a virtual one. So today I asked my friend Jess Ekstrom, who is the founder of Headbands of Hope, author of Chasing the Bright Side, and the host of the Bright Side Conference, to join me. You're going to hear how she had to pivot really, really quickly and turn her live event into a virtual conference due to COVID-19. But what was really exciting is how she was supposed to have a live event with 350 attendees, but turning it into a virtual conference magnified her impact tenfold, and she had over 3,500 people in attendance. So I know, just like me, you want to hear all of her tips. So she was so gracious to join us, and I'm so excited to have her back on the podcast. If you are already hosting events, or if you've been considering it in the future, you are definitely going to love this episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I guess I'm saying that to all of you, but I'm also saying that to my guest today because this is, you've been on the show a few times because we did a bonus episode and an episode, you were actually episode number 60 on the podcast, and I'm so thrilled to have you back.
Can we say that third time's a charm?
I think so. I think you are, this is like the record for number of guests on the show. Yeah.
You know how like late night hosts have that person, they're like wingman in the background that laughs at their jokes and stuff like, I just want to be that for you, where I'm on your podcast.
I just got the picture of like, we could be Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake. Like, I feel like they have that kind of relationship. Yeah. So we'll work on that.
For sure. Yeah. Coming soon. Next episode.
But I messaged you just a few days ago because I saw something that you've been talking about. We'll get to that in a moment. And I knew that, number one, other people are in this conversation too about taking events virtual. And it just so happens the day we're recording this is the day that we announced that this year Powerhouse Women will be a virtual experience. So that was kind of a cool little coincidence.
Very serendipitous. And I remember like, you are the events queen. And I remember when I was planning the Brightside conference and you and I were in Sedona, I was like, Lindsay, like, I can't do this. How did you do it? How did you promote? How did you sell tickets? And now, and then, the Brightside conference obviously got canceled because of COVID. It was like, if you could pick, what is the worst day that I could plan an event in 2020? Because it was like March 21st, which was right, like the week before was when the NBA got canceled and all this stuff. So it was like a game time decision. And so we ended up canceling it and turning it virtual. And I mean, it actually ended up being way better than what I imagined the event would be in person.
Yeah, it's interesting how the tables have turned, because then we started to realize it wasn't probably going to be possible to have a couple hundred women together even in September. We're recording this in July. And then I went to you and I was like, okay, girl, you have to give me all your tips on how you pivoted and made it virtual. And I know that a lot of my friends, I have a lot of friends who host events big and small, and we're all kind of faced with this reality that it's probably going to be a while before people are able to gather together in person. But with that, I believe it's forcing us to get creative and to, as you say, believe in better and really look for where we can actually do a lot of things virtually that wouldn't have been possible at an in-person event. So I actually would love if you would start there.
Yeah.
Start by sharing what was that like to have to make that decision? And then did you know immediately you wanted to take it virtual, or how did that process unfold for you?
Oh my gosh, you're like bringing me back to the night terrors of
Oh no.
March. No, I'm just joking. But seriously, like I literally remember where I was like ordering food with my husband, and we were watching the headlines of, gatherings getting banned, NBA getting canceled. And up until that point, like, so the event was supposed to be 350 people, my event. And I had never even considered, like, oh, what would it be like to pivot or cancel? And then I had this moment. I was like, looked at my husband. I was like, we have to cancel this event that's happening in 1 week. And people are flying in from honestly all over the world to come to it. And I remember like I needed to tell people because I was like, they need to be able to make plans, but I didn't have the alternative, to tell people at that
Yeah.
point, because I wanted to be able to be like, the event's canceled, but this is what we're doing. So the next day I just like filmed a video and emailed all the attendees and told them like, look, we have to cancel the event next weekend, but we're going to turn it virtual like 1 month from today. And I had no freaking clue how I was going to do that. I just gave myself 1 month to figure it out. And then the ticket price that we had for the original event, obviously included like food and all this stuff that they were going to get that day. And so we reduced the ticket cost for the virtual event. So we gave people the option for like a partial refund to keep, their ticket for the virtual event, or if they really wanted a full refund, they could do that. And I think like only 2 people out of like the 350 actually wanted a full refund. And some people even asked us, said donate the rest of the full ticket price to covering our costs, which I thought was really cool.
Wow.
So then I tried to figure out, okay, like how can I make this work? And we had an amazing speaker lineup. We, had a really great theme of the bright side, and it actually ended up being kind of crazy fitting with what was going on with coronavirus, where we're having an event about talking about like how to bring optimism and positivity to our future. So what I think is important if you're listening to this to know is that like, don't wait till the storm like passes with all of this, because we need gatherings and we need connection now more than we did before coronavirus. And so just because
Yeah.
it's virtual doesn't mean it's any less impactful. So I have a course called Mic Drop Workshop where I help women become professional keynote speakers. And I built that course through a course platform called Thinkific. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that same thing with this conference. And so that was where the wheels started turning, was like, if this could be a self-paced, hit play whenever you want, pay what you can, accessible conference for people, like maybe we're onto something. And I was right. Thank goodness.
It worked out. Thank the Lord, because and it's a big, it in the moment feels like such a risk. I guess that's the best way to put it. But then I remember being at that point and looking back and saying, but would I be disappointed if I didn't at least try this? And I felt like I kind of switched roles with you, because all of a sudden, like, I had things down. I could plan a live event in my sleep. And all of a sudden it was a whole different thought process planning something that's virtual.
And I originally thought that planning a virtual event was like, okay, we just need to be able to deliver the content and create an experience for people who have already paid. Like that was my minimum goal. It was just
Yeah.
like, I just want to be able to give people what they thought they were going to get when they came here. But then what I realized is that the moment we turned it virtual and like made it accessible, the messages and the emails that I were getting, they were like, oh my gosh, I wasn't going to be able to come to this in-person event. Now I can come virtual, whether that's because they have kids at home that they need to take care of, or whether it's financially, it's a big expense to travel and go to an event, or whether it's, like any other things that keep people from buying virtual in-person event tickets, like all of those roadblocks vanished. And so
Yep.
it was so easy for people to say yes. And I didn't realize the ripple effect that would have. So we were supposed to have 350 people at our in-person event, and we had 3,500 people show up to our virtual event. And the cool thing about that is, one, the reach that you can have, that like you can't really fit that in an auditorium unless you pay for a huge venue cost. And two, like each new attendee that comes to your event is also a new follower, email subscriber, new potential customer to whatever it is that you're trying to create after this event. So I definitely, like, the virtual event released on April 25th, and I can see the uptick in like my book sales and my web traffic and mic drop sales like on that date, because there was all these people that were just now discovering me because they are attending this virtual event that I'm hosting. So it had a much bigger impact than just trying to suffice to, recover the event that I was going to plan.
Yeah. And I don't know that I've gotten to share this with you yet, but it was on the day that you sent an email to those of us who had been virtual speakers for your conference, sharing the impact and the difference of how many people got to be exposed to the message, and something that now we all realize was needed more than ever. And I will not forget sitting there looking at the email on my phone. And that was when, for me, it went from, I don't know if because I was so resistant to virtual, because I'm like, it's not the same. I want to hug people. I want to hug the shit out of people. And I can't hug them. So
Yeah.
I was having this little pity party, and something clicked in my mind that was like, Lindsay, you're thinking so small. You're thinking so small if you're still holding on, because this was back in April. So I was still holding on that, well, maybe we'll be able to do something. Maybe it'll be smaller. And I really had to step back and go, okay, if I believe that we need this now more than ever, why am I going to limit this message to only the people who could afford to fly here, who would feel comfortable traveling here, who would be able to be in the room with us? Why don't we bring the event to our community? And it was your email that literally made that switch for me and just showed me what was possible.
I'm so glad. And the thing that you just said right there too, like that hesitation, that voice in your head that you're like, this isn't the same, this isn't an in-person event. You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, one thing I'm not trying to say is that virtual events can replace in-person events. I think they can be placeholders until they come back. But just because that they're different doesn't mean that they're like better or worse than in-person events. It all depends on the goals that you have as an event planner, how you plan to gather people, and what, like, if you want to have an event that is like a higher ticket event with less people with a super specific topic in mind, or do you want to have a free event where you can gather a ton of people around one thing that you now have built, your email list. And so just because in-person events and virtual events, I don't really think that they're comparable, but they're just two different channels and two different mediums that you can use to spread the message that you want to share, connect with other speakers, grow your followers, kind of build that base and kind of gather people who all believe in the same thing. And that's the other thing that I really like about virtual events, is that you can be hyper targeted and specific with why and how you're gathering people. Because, like, let's say you want to host an event about people who love, making pottery dollhouse things, like something super specific. It'd be really hard to gather that amount of people in one place to fly in, but you can reach those people virtually. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize how many people loved creating pottery dollhouse trinkets. Like, this is
no
amazing.
idea.
Yeah. I would totally attend that event too.
I would be with you. I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that point, because, and my mentor always says it like this. So even when we were going back and forth about our decision, he said, well, what's the agenda? Like, what's the ideal outcome? And the truth is, we had been planning to release, it's really a program our community has been asking for years. And that would have been the next step we offered people after the event. And so when I thought about it, well, why would we limit it? Why would we limit the ability to know about and participate in this program to just the people who come to the event. If we reimagine it and do it virtually, then it's getting our message and our community into the inboxes of so many more women than we would have otherwise. And, even just making it more accessible with the price of the tickets, hopefully that will in turn capture women who maybe their friend has been telling them for years, like, you've got to get to this event, but it's just not financially possible, right? And so it's like a ticket price that I always think about, like, for myself, if I see something, I'm like, that looks kind of cool. Yeah, why not? And really like finding that sweet spot where it does make it accessible. I know you and I talked a lot about that, what you learned through the ticket pricing and what you did with the Brightside conference, but making it available, almost like totally turning the normal business structure of how we look at an event on its head and looking at it as audience generating and just giving back to our community and getting this information in the hands of women who may not ever be able to attend an event and fly to Arizona and be here live.
I think accessibility is like the main thing that makes virtual events so special. And accessibility could be, financial. We had a pay what you can model for our event where you could pay $0 or you could pay $97, you could pay whatever. The average price that people paid was $25. And that was with the option to pay nothing, and people still paid. And then there were people who, did pay $0 that we got messages from that were like, I just got laid off from my job. Like, this is exactly what I needed, or I'm a healthcare worker and, really just trying to survive right now. And this is perfect. And so the accessibility part for a virtual event, for you to be able to get this inspirational experience, listen to speakers, connect with people from the comfort of your own home. The other thing that I want to address too is like the difference between live virtual events and pre-recorded virtual events. So we made the decision to make ours pre-recorded using the Thinkific platform. And I think that for us, that was a good move, because if we wanted this to be accessible, like, they can hit play, they can hit pause whatever day that they want to. Yeah. So we had like 25 speakers for our event, and we wanted them to be like quicker, 20 minutes and under talks. And so we have people that watched a talk a day for a month. And then we had people that binged it, on April 25th and like just freaking went ham on it. And so to have it be pre-recorded, one, gave us a lot of control over the event experience. It also made it a lot easier to ask speakers for videos, because we gave them a window, like, can you just record something between now and the next 3 weeks, instead of asking them, hey, can you be available at 1 p.m. on this day, this time, have Wi-Fi, and so it made it a lot easier event experience, and made it an event experience that the attendees could control. So when you're thinking about what you want your event to be, there's a lot of pros with live events too. There's a lot of excitement, camaraderie, same day, same time, everyone's watching. But then pre-recorded can also be really great too. So there's definitely like figure out what's right for you and what you want your attendees to experience.
And that's such a great point, the flexibility that going virtual gives you, because with technology and the World Wide Web, there's infinite ways that it can look. So I know that just in our conversations too, there were some, maybe they were expected, maybe they were unexpected, other blessings and benefits that came along with going virtual, like being able to have those 25 amazing speakers. I mean, you had the founder of Netflix, NBD, as one of your speakers, right? Yeah. So what else did you learn from making that transition that maybe wouldn't have been possible if you had stuck with the live event?
So definitely a wider range of speakers was huge turning to a virtual event. Like, because it gives them the opportunity to flip on their camera. And with a lot of the speakers, we had a call to action page after the speaker. So after your page, it's like, check out Powerhouse Women. And one of the things that you get with virtual events is people are already on their computers, on their phones, ready to act, to click, to follow, to buy. And
Mm.
so with virtual events, like sometimes when you're sitting in an audience and someone's like, oh, you can follow me on Instagram or you can buy my book. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do that after this talk.
Yeah.
But when they're in their pajamas, like on their couch, they're like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy their book, like open the Amazon tab and blah, blah, blah. And so we had speakers that like had a big uptick in sales in their books or their, followers and stuff when it came out. And because of that as well, one of the things that I thought that we would lose turning virtual was sponsors, but we actually gained more. So
Oh.
I thought like, okay, how the heck am I going to keep these sponsors on? Like we had pretty significant sponsors for the Brightside in-person conference. We had Sharpie, and they were supposed to have this like Sharpie wall, in the corner. We had Justice that was, sponsoring this panel about young girls. And so I was like, what can I do? And we ended up doing this like interactive hashtag campaign with Sharpie where people had to follow them and show how they're like, making it matter, leave your mark. And then, Thinkific, the platform that we used to host this event, actually ended up sponsoring the conference and buying 200 tickets for people. And sponsors loved the fact that people were already watching from a place where they could act. So if you think that like you are going to do a virtual event and maybe, you're not going to be able to get any sponsors because it's not in person, it's actually an advantage. Because what sponsors want at the end of the day is like for you to click and do something. And they're already in that position to do that.
Yeah. Okay. I hadn't even thought about that aspect, but that's brilliant. Just thinking through the financial end of things and how this can actually be something just as profitable, if not more, than something that's in person. I would love, on that note, I would love to hear some of what you learned in as far as promoting, because I mean, to go from 350 to 3,500, that's a pretty big jump. What were some of the things as you were selling tickets for the virtual conference that really helped in your perspective?
Yeah. So from the financial side too, just to hit on that, I was like, when I was planning the in-person event, and I know it sounds like I'm hating on in-person events, but I've told you this, Lindsay, of like, it just wasn't my thing. Like you just learn what lights you up and what doesn't. And planning an in-person event, I had nightmares about porta johns. I'm like, oh my God, there's not enough bathrooms. You thrive in that setting. I do not.
I love it.
I was like, anytime we'd have to like, oh my God, we need to pay for insurance. We need more porta johns. We need to get, more caterers, and like that overhead costs just kept going up and up and up. The closer that we got to the event. And then when we turned it virtual, like obviously, the deposits that we made and we couldn't get those back, but it actually ended up being really cool because some of those, like I bought like a massive balloon installation and ended up giving that to the hospitals and stuff. So it ended up being cool. But anyways, so when you go to virtual, like those overhead costs just disappear. You're like, oh my gosh, people have their own bathrooms at home. People can go to their fridge. Like this is amazing. The things that we did pay for virtual were we paid for captioning on the videos because again, we wanted it to be accessible for people. And then we paid for the platform. Like I have a Thinkific membership, but in the course that I offer for this, there's a free 30-day trial to Thinkific. So you could actually do it within 30 days, but don't tell them I told you that. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and then we paid for Facebook ads. So talking about promotion, we did run Facebook ads to get signups and just targeted people that we thought that, would want to come to this event. And that was really successful. But if you don't want to pay for Facebook ads, other thing that we did that was worked really well was affiliates. So anyone who signed up as an attendee or any speaker also got an affiliate code where they could make money based off of who bought tickets and at what price point they bought it with. And so if someone, bought a ticket for $50 and, the affiliate would get $10. And so we gave people the reason to share, and then we gave them the resources to share. So we created graphics and I'm going to the Brightside conference, join me. So tried to make it really easy for
Yeah.
people to share about this event. And that was, I think, what was really the kicker for it, was getting people to be the marketers for us.
Yep. And that was something that after we talked, we decided to do as well. And just thinking about the time that we're in, give women in our community a way to make money by
Yeah.
sharing the love. And so I love that suggestion. So you've mentioned it a couple of times. You actually, probably because you had so many friends like me reaching out and saying, help, like
Yeah.
show us what you did. But you created a resource to teach people everything you learned from creating your virtual conference. Share a little
Mhm.
bit about that. Cause I saw that post and I was like, girl, we have to talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
People need to know.
Well, it's funny, like if you ever are looking for like what course idea should I have? What should I create? What or is the trend that's in your inbox right now? Like what are people
Yep.
asking you for? Like that's how I created Mic Drop Workshop, because I was getting a lot of people asking me how to become a paid speaker. And then when we launched this virtual summit, people were like, "How the heck did you do that?" And I was like, I don't know, I blacked out, but let me think about it for a second and then let me formulate my thoughts. And I figured like this could be really helpful for people in the phase that we're in, with a lot of in-person events being on hold. It's great, like hosting your own virtual event is great for platform building, impact, like really low risk, low overhead with a huge amount of gain and
Yeah.
huge amount of upside if if it goes well. So I created a course that has like everything in there about hosting your own virtual summit, picking your theme. Do you want to do live versus pre-recorded? What resources that you need to use? How to get sponsors. We have like a plug and play Canva template that you can use to pitch to sponsors. Speaker selection, how to organize them. I mean, literally in everything I did right and everything I did wrong, I just put in this course, and I opened it up for a week and it was a huge success. And then when you and I talked, I was like, maybe we could open it up for Powerhouse Women.
I know. I think I messaged you, and then the next Instagram story slide I saw was that the doors were closing, and you were so kind to offer to open it back up for our community. So we're going to include the link, a very special top secret link just for our community in the show notes, and it'll open back up just for a week. So depending on when you listen to this, it will be available until July 31st, 2020. And then afterward, if people are like dying to get it, where will they be able to find it?
Yeah, so afterwards, if you still want it, then you can actually get it as a part of my Drop Workshop. So virtual events are also obviously in the speaking field, and not just how to host virtual events, but speak at them. And
Yeah.
so with my course, Mic Drop Workshop, you'll be able to get the virtual events course for free. So if you go to micdropworkshop.com, you can learn more about that. But really excited to have this course available a la carte, if you will, for Powerhouse Women. And I think that like if you have even thought about hosting a virtual event, but you don't know what it's going to be yet, this course will help you kind of think through that. If you know exactly what you want your event to be, but you're like, I don't want to do this until January, you have lifetime access to the course when you buy it. So you can get it, sit on it, and then use it whenever you want.
So valuable. Literally, I mean, like I said, I'm sure a lot of my questions were part of what nudged you to create this, and I'm so grateful that you did.
I'm glad you
Um,
asked.
because nowadays, especially, just having something that can take you by the hand, walk you through step 1, step 2, step 3, it's going to save you so much time and money. Just get the course, even if you think you might someday, possibly in the
Yeah.
future, host a virtual event.
I mean, it was crazy. Like, if I look at my analytics of my profiles and my business, like when the virtual summit went live, my followers went up, my email list went up. Not to mention like the profit that we made from the conference, my book sales went up. And so on the impact side, it's amazing to be able to gather like-minded people for
Yeah.
a certain, a certain topic or whatever you want to explore. But if you're also looking to build your own brand and your own platform, like I would encourage you to not just host a virtual conference, but speak at it. Like people are afraid to speak at their own events for seeming like, I don't want to, like put my name on it or put my face on it. And it's like, no, be the first speaker. I put myself as the first speaker at my own
Yep.
event because I'm like, look, I'm putting this together. Like, I have things I want to say. So also speak at your own event too.
It's true. And this is something that I talk a lot with women that I mentor to host their own events, previously live events, is, don't wait to be asked to speak at other people's event. Build your own. And
Yeah,
that could be a workshop. It could literally be gathering a group in your living room. It doesn't have to be something over the top, but starting with virtual is a great lower risk way to get yourself out there and start speaking. Um,
totally.
I on that note, as we kind of wrap this up, obviously, like I'm a huge fan of everything you do, including the mic drop workshop. And you, I know that has been a big pivot you've had to make in this season too, because you used to
Mhm.
speak all over the country. How can people take advantage of more events going virtual in terms
Mhm.
of establishing themselves as a speaker?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so we created its the own module in Mic Drop Workshop for virtual events. And one of the great things about being a speaker at virtual events is that you can have your notes, you can have your cheat sheet. If you want to try new content, you're not going up there and bombing in front of people, which I've done many times before. And so virtual events are like a playground for speakers. Like you can do 5 in one day. You can just like, you're not going and traveling, you can try new things, you can have your little like cues and reminders. So I would say like reach out to virtual events that you find, see if they're looking for speakers. As far as pay, there are events that are still paying, and you're not going to get the same rate that you get, as like an in-person speaker, because you're not accounting for like travel and things of that nature. But also, if you're trying to sell something, if you have a course, if you have a book that you're trying to sell, speaking at virtual events is a great way to do that. And so for a lot of virtual events that I speak at, instead of doing like a speaker fee, it's they're buying books for attendees or something along that nature. So speaking at virtual events, hosting virtual events are a great way right now to stay plugged into communities, keep practicing your craft, and remember that like events aren't going away. They're not like, speaking isn't dying, events aren't going away. When they come back, we're going to need them more than ever. And what my like crystal ball is telling me, this is like, might be true, might be not, is that I think that events are going to start to come back in 2021, but smaller. And they're going to do like, if there was one event that was going to be, 500 people, they might do 2 events with 250 people. And
Mm.
that's what I've been seeing with some of the gigs that I have booked. And so they need more speakers than they did before because they're breaking up their events. So if you have the mindset of like, let me wait and see what's going to happen, let's like press pause until we know what's happening, I would say, start crafting your keynote now, or join my mic drop workshop. Like, learn what it is that you want to speak on, because you're going to want to hit the ground running as soon as those curtains open.
So brilliant. And also keep yourself visible.
Yeah,
People are
totally.
noticing who is showing up right now. Even though it's online, it's virtually, but showing up consistently is the best way that you can position yourself for some of those opportunities. I love it.
Yeah. And then, a lot of people right now are going through a tough season,
Yeah.
and maybe your business has come to a halt. Like, maybe you got laid off, or maybe you're just maybe someone who was affected by COVID, or maybe you're affected by COVID. And the thing that I'm trying to remember about this time is that like, all the content and the messages that we build are based on our stories that we've experienced. And so you might be in your story right now. The things that you're experiencing right now might be the stories that you tell to transform others on stage next year.
Yep.
So if you're going through like a tough season of life right now, and you're not really sure what the future holds, none of us do. But it might mean that this is the lesson that you were meant to have, because you're going to teach it later.
Oh, so, so well said. And I'm glad you included that because I know that when I look back at some of the toughest seasons in my life, I know we've had this conversation, toughest
Mhm.
seasons in business. Often those are the stories that become part of public speaking talks that I do, or even just a really funny story at parties.
Yeah, exactly. We all need a good party story.
Yeah, it's good. Well, okay, so tell people where they can find all of the things. Of course, we're going to link the mic drop workshop. We will link the virtual events course all in the show notes. But as far as where people can follow you and hear about, I don't know, like maybe a new podcast coming out or some other fun things that you have in the work, I'm putting you on blast because I'm so stinking excited for this podcast.
I love you. Thank you. But yeah, you can go to the show notes to sign up for the virtual summit course, because it's closed on all my channels. So you'll only be able to get it on there. And then Mic Drop Workshop, you can go to micdropworkshop.com. But you can follow me on Instagram at Jess_Ekstrom. And Lindsay has inspired me to start a podcast of my own, which I'm super excited about. We're still toying around with the name, but I think it's going to be Business on the Bright Side, and going to be really like short form episodes of the ups, downs, and how-tos of just going for it. So I'm sure this won't be the last time that we talk on a podcast. Next time it might be mine.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
I loved the post you were having everyone vote on the name. I was pretty partial to Business in the Front.
Oh my God, I wanted it so bad. Yeah.
Maybe that can be the secret like code name for the podcast.
Right. So I wanted it to be Business in the Front, and a lot of people told me that that is off brand, and I'm like, damn. Okay.
Really? Fine. I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank goodness for feedback.
Yeah. My husband is like, oh, and then we could have like a party in the back, you know, at the end of the episode where we play like dance music. And I'm like, I love it, but I think that we need to go in another direction.
That could be the name of Jake, your husband, and Elliot, my husband's podcast together. I could see that. I was
literally just going to say that we need to do a podcast episode with both of us as couples, and get our husbands on here. So if anyone doesn't know this, I know we've mentioned it before, our husbands are like separated at birth, and they're the same person.
A little bit freaky when we finally met up in person and brought our spouses. We were like, hold on, wait, you two seem like you're best friends. I'm sorry, like we started this here.
We married the same person.
It's pretty hilarious.
And I still laugh at when I texted you, like my husband was playing video games downstairs and he was being so loud, and I was about to go on a Zoom call with your group. Yeah, with you and your group. And I meant to text Jake, and I texted Lindsay, and I was like, if you don't shut up down there, I'm going to come down there. And you were like, I think that was for Jake.
The best part was immediately I knew what was happening, because those text messages happen daily. Our husbands both play video games, sometimes with each other, and they yell as though they're actually saving the world while they're doing it.
Man down. I'm like, shut up. I'm trying to record.
I'm serious. We're going to start a Call of Duty Wives Club. Hit us up if you want to join. Yes, we're starting the club. Listen to Jess's podcast when it comes out. Follow her on social. Truly, just so grateful for you. This episode was really just an excuse to get to connect again. It's been too long, and I'm just so grateful.
I'm so grateful for your friendship, and I can't wait to hopefully see you soon. And I want that hug that you give out at events. So
hug the shit out of you.
Mask up. Thanks, Lindsay.